Not the worst loss of the season for the Phoenix Suns, but one of the hardest games to watch. A whole lot of free throws and yet another close loss for the Suns, this time with Dillon Brooks back in the lineup. We've got a lot to talk about on PHNX Suns, and we're going to do it on the other side of this. Psychos and sickos unite for an Orlando tragic edition of the PHNX Suns post-game show presented by our friends over at Bet365. Download the Bet365 app, use code PHNX365 when you sign up, and find out why winning is everything over at Bet365. I'm Eric. We've got Gil, Espo, Steven, and the Freckle.
It's about to be a long post-game show.
Behind the Mac, making all of the magic happen. It's going to be a long one. We got a lot to talk about today. The Suns unable to capitalize again in the fourth quarter. Lots of rotations.
Kara, I think we all feel like that.
Yeah, Kara partaking in some pure edibles. Shout out to pure edibles. Look, we have a lot to get into today. Rotations, clutch lineups, Dillon Brooks' return, the Suns digging a hole at the beginning of the game and not being able to get out of it. But first things first, no matter what happens, good or bad, we always have to take a moment to throw it on the gift.
Listen, tonight felt like a postseason game. It was physical. It was chippy. There were technical fouls within the first 5 or 6 minutes of the game. But that has nothing to do with why this team lost. Don't dig yourself in a hole early. Don't give up 70 points in the first half of a game. I loved the run to open the third quarter, but it's something crazy. Maybe start the game like that. And I recognize it's the second end of a back-to-back. I recognize there are changes in the starting lineup, and that's a part of the process. So ultimately, I'm going to chalk it up to that. But you can't chalk it up to that, but so much more, because there are only 6 games left in this regular season. Yes, Jalen Green is going to be better. Dillon Brooks will be more comfortable and look better with this lineup. But we talked about runways. We talked about trial and error. We talked about figuring it out before it's too late. Well, we're cutting it close to being too late. This team's going to bounce back. They have another tough test on Thursday in Charlotte. We saw what happened the last time these two teams played. That's definitely on the Hornets' mind. So you learn from this. You figure things out. And ultimately, it comes down to the fourth quarter execution. It's like a bunch of puzzle pieces, and they're learning more and getting more pieces as the time goes on. And eventually, they'll put it together. But hopefully, eventually comes in time.
Man, I feel like it would be disingenuous to not start off this post-game show talking about lineups. I feel like that is kind of this persisting theme, because I think we all would agree that, yeah, the Suns need to get off to a better start, right? That's unacceptable. It's been a problem with them all year. These first quarters have not been good for them, right? They've only won a couple of first quarters since the All-Star break. But I think what people cannot agree about or are not agreeing about online, on socials, Espo, is who should have been out on the court to end the game. The product aside, who should have been the 5 that was there? And we can dissect the lineups for the entire game, because I think there are other conversations to have. But that closing 5, no center out there, no Jalen Green out there. What was your takeaway?
I have no problem with no center out there, because that's how you got back in the game, and that's how you put yourself in the lead at one point in the fourth. So zero problem with going small, because you dictated the style that you wanted to go with. So I don't take issue with that. I don't know what the decision with Jalen Green was. He came up gingerly at one point during the game. I don't know if there was a concern there or if they just felt it wasn't his night offensively. I need to hear answers on that front. And look, we know the Dillon Brooks experience, and he made a boneheaded play there at the end. But you also know that that's part of the territory. That kind of comes with the territory, and that's going to happen. So I don't have a major problem with it. You couldn't go to Goody, because Goody had to go out hurt in that final minute. I mean, so I don't have a huge issue with it. And Kim in the chat, no, small ball isn't why you lost. It's actually how you got back into the game and the reason you took the lead. We can debate, and we will, I'm sure, whether Kaman should have had a few more minutes in this game because of his defensive impact early on. But this was not going small, was not the reason that you had a problem in this game.
Yeah, there's many other things in the pecking order before mentioning small ball. You can't turn the ball over to the extent that you did tonight and say that you firmly still believe that you should have won the game. Ayrton, we can go ahead and get to my number for tonight. Number for tonight, 26. That's how many points that they served up on a silver platter for Orlando to go and score off of. 26 points. For the record, the Suns conceded more points to Orlando via turnovers than they themselves scored in the fourth quarter. So if you're starting with wanting to talk about lineups and wanting to talk about who should have been in for who, but ignoring that part of the game where you conceded a 26-point spot to your opponents, I don't think you're fairly assessing what we just got done watching, which was 48 minutes of basketball.
Well, I'm not sure that was basketball.
48 minutes of free throws.
And to the point of 48 minutes, they didn't do it for 48 minutes.
Sure.
And that's been the issue that we've been talking about with this team, because to go deeper into your number, 21 of those 26 points came in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
So you give up 70 points in the first half, 21 of them, as you said, serve them on a silver platter, and you set yourselves in such a hole because you're not taking care of the ball. And that's something, I don't care how tired you are, I don't care who you played last night and how difficult that test was, which it wasn't in the fourth quarter. And we talked about them being fresh. We talked about the low workload for a lot of guys, 2 guys coming back. There's no excuse for that. That's just not being sharp. And again, they were sharper, much sharper in the second half, but it's like, when can we get this 48-minute thing? Because we are in April now. This is the last game of March. It's go time now. The same way what March is for college basketball, April is for the NBA. You're here now. You cannot be making these types of mistakes. I recognize who you're bringing back to the lineup. That does not excuse playing that sloppy and turn the ball over that many times.
Yeah, this is not the first time that Dillon Brooks has played all season.
Right.
I know he missed an extended period of time, but he's played a lot. He's played more than Jalen Green this season. And look, you look at that fourth quarter, 17 points in the fourth quarter. I don't believe the Suns had a field goal in the final 5 minutes of the game.
Booker hit that 3.
Or the hit that's before the Booker 3. He didn't have a field goal for like a 5 minute. They didn't have a field goal for like a 5 minute stretch there, right? And that brings me back to closing lineups, and I think there's a conversation that needs to be had about Jalen Green, who played 20 minutes tonight, had 8 points, 3 of 10 from the field, 0 of 5 from 3. Clearly not one of Jalen's best games shooting the ball. He also had 4 turnovers to 2 assists, and I completely understand why he had limited minutes, especially in that second half. I think it gets to a point where your offense is so stalled out, especially because you are going small, which I don't necessarily have a problem with. I think I would have liked to see more of Kaman tonight. Certainly not in the closing lineup, though. So I have no problem with going small, trying to get your shooters out there. Get Grayson Allen, get Dillon Brooks or Royce, who had been hitting some threes. But at a certain point, when you are dying to get a bucket, you are incapable of getting a bucket, you have to do what you did the last time you played the Orlando Magic in a really wonky game where you couldn't get shots to fall. You kind of got to let Jalen Green ride in that. And even if it doesn't end up in the results that you want, at the end of the day, in a play-in or a playoff game in the final 5 minutes, you should have Devin Booker, Jalen Green, and Dillon Brooks out there. Those guys have not closed any games together. You should give them a rep to see if they can do it, especially when you can't buy a bucket.
Should you, though, have them out there if Jalen Green is not showing any propensity offensively? Now, I get that you were struggling, but I'm thinking, okay, you're coming down to it. Jalen Green's 0 of 5 from deep has not really shown much. Is that really where you turn?
Grayson Allen shot worse than Jalen Green tonight.
I get it. I need to hear what Jordan Ott's thinking was with it. Like, if there is something more to why Jalen was out, fine. And I understand the mindset of trying to go out there with Jalen, and we saw what he was able to do in that double overtime game. Again, he's messing with these lineups, trying to understand what's going to work, what's not right now. And that the problem is you don't have much time left to do that. This is a problem you should have been dealing with in November, but couldn't because you were never healthy with it. So I don't know. I'm expecting to hear that there's something more going on with Jalen rather than he just got benched in the fourth.
My issue with him wasn't the shooting. You said it already, Eric. He had a team high 4 turnovers in 20 minutes. So there were a couple that were just, he looked a little out of sorts. And I think credit to the Magic defense, because we talked about that beforehand. This is a Magic team that was coming off of being embarrassed. How were they going to respond? This was kind of make or break for them and the rest of their season. And they showed that with the effort they played with. I don't necessarily think the Suns did not have that, but didn't necessarily match that because they're playing something different. They're playing to figure things out. You can kind of tell when somebody's unsure of something, maybe unsure of themselves, and you play tentatively. And when you're not moving with intention, or you're not moving with certainty what you're trying to do, then I think that opens the door for the mistakes that they made. I am curious because I thought that he was going to get some more looks. I think that they trust guys to play themselves out of slumps and play themselves out of weird ruts. So I think that there maybe is a little something more below the surface, but still, I can understand at least just assuming that that's not the case. And you're trying to think purely what we saw, what was going on. I think the nature of the turnovers that he had, coupled with the fact that he was not having some type of rhythm, which I think goes hand in hand with the turnovers. Maybe that's why, but I would have liked to maybe see them give him another look. But again, maybe that's why he wasn't able to do it.
My problem was not that Jalen Green was having this incredible night and all of a sudden he gets mysteriously benched. I completely understand why he played less minutes than he usually does, right? But if we're preaching about you have to be efficient to be out there closing, well, Grayson Allen wasn't efficient tonight. He was out there closing. Dillon Brooks wasn't efficient tonight. He was out there closing, but you put them out there because they have the ability to score. They have the ability, and you should have the trust in them to do what they've done all season. Jalen Green coming in tonight has been on a roll as a scorer and has shown you multiple times in the clutch, not just in that Orlando game, but other games that he has risen up and he has made big plays. And you know what? Maybe he's out there and maybe he's 0-7 from 3. Maybe he doesn't hit another shot. That's something that personally at this point of the season, I'm willing to live with because like you said, Espo, you don't have that runway anymore, right? You have to figure these things out. I'd like to at least, if it's going to look clunky, which it did, if you're not going to score for 5 minutes, which you didn't, I'd like to at least see it with your 3 top end offensive engines out there at the end of the game, just to be like, hey, go figure this out. Let's get some tape. Let's get some film of you guys closing these fourth quarters. And so then we can work on it if it's not going to work either way.
That's why I still think there's. I
don't
think there's
know.
something
I don't
more
think there's
going on.
something
He only
else.
played 20 minutes. I mean, he either was full-fledged benched, which is a bigger concern to me than anything, or he had something that happened that they said, you know what, sit. This is a back-to-back. You felt something. Sit. That I think him sitting because of something feeling a little off is less concerning than him getting full-fledged benched.
I mean,
there.
yeah, but I would agree if he was injured, that's a way bigger
And that's,
deal.
I mean, that's the only way I can justify Grayson getting 12 more minutes than him tonight. And if he's not, I have a lot of questions for Jordan Ott. But to me, that screams something more was going on this evening. It just does. And it's speculation, obviously.
I mean,
but
Steven, when you look at that closing lineup, obviously, you don't get the result that you want. Understandably, Jalen didn't have a great game. Do you feel like they should have rocked with Jalen at the end there to see what they had with those 3 and Brooks and Booker and him on the court together in a clutch situation?
Well, I wouldn't have been surprised if they gave him opportunity, but to Espo's point a little bit, I want to see what the reasoning behind that was. But from just watching it, I do feel like he left a bit to be desired in today's game. I think that's a fair assessment to make. He's definitely not the only player that did so, but it gets to a point where, especially in a game like this, they're trying to figure things out, just figure out what works, figure out what doesn't work. We've seen in games where Devin wasn't here that Jalen just didn't have it in certain games, and Jalen didn't play much, if at all, down the stretch of games. And I was asked, was there something going on with Jalen? Why didn't he play down the stretch? Or as asked even more so, and he responds with, Jalen understands, what we're doing and what we're working towards. Not putting him on blast, but making it apparent that there were demands, they weren't met. He understands that we went a certain direction, but he's bought in enough to not allow for that to impact his confidence and perspective on things going forward. This feels like another kind of chapter in that. Not a recurring theme, but something that has happened a couple of times before for a younger player. That's not a surprising thing, but the Suns do need him to be better for sure.
This is tough because, yeah, if Grayson Allen hits 2 more threes, right, or if Dylan Brooks doesn't shoot from behind the back.
Oh, no. If you don't turn the ball over 20 times in the game, if we're pointing the finger at anything outside of the turnovers first, I just don't feel like this game is accurately being assessed, man. You gave them, like, the turnovers, the arbitrary number of turnovers, yes. 26, you score 17 in the fourth. That's not a game you're usually going to win. Past just the arbitrary number itself. Look at the flow of the game when these turnovers are happening. What's the domino effect of turning the ball over time after time? The opposing team gets confidence. Orlando, a team that's been struggling on offense, bottom third in the offense, all of a sudden they feel really good about themselves. Jalen Suggs feels really good about himself because of the handful of steals he's able to either compile or put his teammates in position to take advantage of. And now you got them scoring in transition. That's a lot of confidence that you have to work up against while also trying to gather yourself in that same process. You get caught in that web, that's a Pandora's box that you oftentimes can't navigate yourself back out of, especially that early in the game.
Well, and you got back in it when you started forcing turnovers,
Exactly.
getting steals,
Mhm.
and then that went away.
Mhm.
And so that's a huge part of this is you weren't playing your game defensively either. So not only are you turning over the ball, you're not forcing the issue.
Yeah.
Those middle 2 quarters they did. That's when their offense got rolling, 35, 38 points.
Yep.
First and fourth, you didn't do that. And that was a huge difference in this because that offense stalls a lot when it's not moving quick, when it's not getting those transition opportunities. And again, first and fourth quarter, it showed that tonight. And we've seen this far too often in fourth quarters with this team where the offense stops in part because the defense isn't pushing the issue.
And that's what's so frustrating about this loss, the nature of it, in that all that you did wrong, and I think we could list a lot of things and tier what the reasons are, the first half in itself, the turnovers, some of the execution, and you had chances to tie and win the game down the stretch. You were a couple plays away. I think that speaks to why we hold this team to such a high standard, because it's like if you are playing your game and you are paying attention to detail and playing a certain way, whether it's the limiting the turnovers, whether it's forcing the turnovers, and what you did in the second and third quarter, really the third quarter to make up for everything. That 8-0 run to close the third quarter, that's Phoenix Suns basketball. And then they get back away from it. And I think the fourth quarter mistakes and mishaps, I think, was more of a product of pressing the wrong buttons. And that goes from whether it's the lineup on the court or the decisions that guys were making when they were in spots to make those decisions more than anything, I think. But way before all that, as Steven was saying, you put yourself in a hole that you had to dig out of. And I think it's just, okay, how do you learn from this? How do you recognize, okay, moving forward, let's not do this anymore? Because we're kind of seeing the same movie, but today it played out a little bit differently, where the stuff that we hadn't seen, that we saw happen late in the game, happened early in the game.
So we got from Dwayne Rankin, Jordan Ott said, Jalen Green wasn't hurt. They just went small and stayed small. And Jordan Goodwin either has a hip or a groin. First off, that explanation makes no sense because guess what?
Jalen Green would be in the small line.
That doesn't make sense to me. And so now I do have questions as to why you only play him 20 minutes and why you don't go back to him a little bit there, because maybe I don't close with him.
Even the start of the fourth quarter,
maybe
I see if you can get it going a bit, right?
Yeah,
like, see if you can hit a couple of shots. And I totally understand the turnovers and the Suns, got in their own way and shot themselves in the foot. I completely agree with that, right? I think the most frustrating thing for me tonight, and we can unpack this a little bit more after our upcoming break, is that this is yet another one of these losses where you were in the game in the fourth quarter. Some would even say that you had control going into the fourth quarter because, yeah, it was tied, but you had an incredible third quarter. You had all the momentum going into the final frame, and you just could not get it done. And we had a lot of conversations about, well, when Dylan Brooks is back, that's going to be a guy that can help stabilize the fourth quarters. I think he did the opposite tonight. He needs a little bit of leeway because he's getting back into rhythm, but his basketball IQ is not where it needed to be tonight, literally shooting from behind the backboard, right? The thing is, when you get into these one-game scenarios that the Suns will be getting into in about 2 weeks from now, that could be decided by missed free throws, which has been a problem, or turning the ball over earlier in the game. But a lot of times it's like, okay, it's a 5-point game in clutch time. Who's going to perform in the clutch, right? And earlier in the season, it was, hey, this team just always found a way to win. Well, these last 10 or so games, they more often than not have been finding a way to lose when it's close. And that to me is the concerning part.
Yeah, I definitely. And the decision, and we can get more into it in the fourth, late in the fourth, that concerned me even more was we all could tell Jordan Goodwin was not right for a good
Correct.
minute and a half there at the end. And you could have pulled him during a free throw. You didn't even have to waste, and you didn't. And that one makes me wonder why you didn't make a change at that point, because you're now essentially playing 4.5 on 5. And you know Goodwin was going to give the effort on the defense, but it looked like he was dragging his leg behind him on the offensive end. And so that's one of the decisions I question as to why you didn't make that move at least.
We got a lot of decisions that we're going to continue to talk about and question. I think this is a great, healthy conversation after a game that maybe impacted a lot of people's health. And we'll keep on talking about it on the other side of our first break. You need to do your research after an accident or a serious injury, because unfortunately life is going to be very stressful trying to figure out what lawyer you need to find or if you should take a court case to trial. And the Husband and Wife Law Team are here, and they're ready with hundreds of years of combined trial experience to get you through the most stressful part of your life. Multiple certified specialists in personal injury and wrongful death, and a firm completely dedicated to exactly that. Plus, we're a lot of places, they do a lot of this, they do a lot of talking. Well, Husband and Wife Law Team, they make a lot of guarantees that you can cancel your fee agreement at any time for any reason. A guarantee that you'll receive at least as much in your pocket as they receive for their fee, even if they have to reduce their attorney's fee to do so. Plus, you may speak with one of their lawyers as often as you choose about anything you'd like to discuss. And don't forget that they will always, and I mean always, tell you the strengths and weaknesses of your case so that you can make the most informed decision. So make the most informed decision first. If you've had a serious injury, call the Husband and Wife Law Team at 602-783-8841 or visit their website at the link in our show notes and tell them that PHNX sent you.
You guys love college ball, right? I mean, we all,
Yes.
Especially with Duke lose.
Yeah, I mean, and right now, I got a flexible way for you guys to watch TV and watch it live with our friends at Sling TV. You get more control over how and when you tune into all your shows, including sports. And Sling TV came out with a game-changing way to watch live TV, because I like saving a little cash. It's great to do that right now. And they have flexible 1, 3, and 7-day pass subscriptions where you can watch everything that you want, instant access. And they start at just $4.99. You can watch all the games in that last 4 in the national championship for $4.99. It's super easy, and it beats other ways that you could watch it for sure. And when the tournament's done, keep those passes in mind for all your NBA and NHL playoffs, and even the WNBA season that's coming up. So with both daily and weekly plans, Sling TV truly has something for everyone's lifestyle. Live TV, your way. Learn more at sling.com.
We appreciate all of you joining us live here on PHNX Sports. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Unfortunately, the Suns did pick up another loss, 115-111. Steven, I want to go back to you here really quickly, because when we were talking about the Jalen Green closing, you wanted to withhold, until you knew a little bit more about the situation. Has your opinion
No,
changed?
I said he has to play better for them, though.
Right. Has your opinion or anything changed knowing that he wasn't hurt?
No, he has to play better. Point blank, period. Can't turn the ball over. Got to be winning downhill consistently, putting pressure on that and making smart decisions off of that. One instance I'm thinking about, I think it was Gillespie that knocked down the 3 in the corner off of him just getting a drive and winning down the paint, going towards his right hand. You have to rinse and repeat a lot of those instances against a playoff-style defense like this. He didn't have that in a consistent manner tonight. And I feel like if he's doing that consistently, there's no one that can replicate the things that he has as superpowers. Like Jordan Knight has said, if you're playing to those qualities, you're not giving your coach a choice but to keep you in mind if you're not on the court, and when you're on it, to hesitate to want to take you out because of how close it is.
Do you think, as a coach, I know a lot of people are like, oh, you could destroy Jalen's confidence. I kind of wonder if part of it is, how he ended last season, right? And if you let him go out there and that snowballs, are you a little afraid, oh, well, maybe he gets into a funk at that point? I'm going to protect him from himself a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with different lineups here. And that may be you're outsmarting yourself a little bit as a coach, but you got to wonder, what's the thought process?
Well, my thing, so and this is not directed at anybody. This is just a general thing from stuff I've been seeing. You can't speak to the depth of the guard group in particular. And then if one guard is not playing well and guys are closing in place of him, be mad about one guy not playing because that's what the strength of the team is. You have answers to a guy having foul trouble, being injured, or having an off night. And there's no reason why you shouldn't roll through all of those options if you have those options on the table. That's quite literally what they're there for. So in an instance like this, Jalen is not playing head and shoulders better than Grayson or Goody or Colin. If I decides to close with one of those guys and you're lamenting or you're speaking to at volume the depth of guys at that spot, that is what it is. And there's competition. Those guys know that too.
What came to my mind, we talked about it a little bit. It's not to put anybody on the spot and act as though we know every single lineup that they employed down the stretch of the game. But when you talk about Jalen being in, the question then goes, okay, instead of who? And I look back and they closed that third on an 8-0 run. And I believe they ran with that same lineup to start the fourth quarter to ride that momentum. Then the first person back in the game was Dillon Brooks. We have zero idea, no insight, no inside information on what they are doing or what they're thinking. But my assumption or my educated guess could be, okay, this guy hasn't played in a month. We're trying to figure out these fourth quarter woes. Let's get this guy back in there. And Dillon's rhythm was interrupted immediately because of foul trouble, basically all night, right? Because he had a couple quick baskets in that run to start the third quarter and then picked up number 5. So I think that in the grand scheme of things that we're all kind of factoring on what's going on, there's a big part of trying to get Dillon for the bigger picture reincorporated for not only tonight, but what he needs to do for the rest of the season. Foul trouble messes that entire rotation up. Throw in Jalen struggles, and I think that makes it a little more of a difficult, I guess, map to navigate for the coaching staff to figure things out. So that's something else I think is a part of the equation as well. Not the only thing, but that's a part of the equation.
I do think that a lot of this is on Jordan Ott tonight because of decisions made. I think that's part of it. But we talk about this team trying to have learning experiences.
Mm-hmm.
This is Jordan Ott going through this the first time as a head coach. Is that an excuse? No, it's just a reality that this guy's trying to figure it out as well and trying to figure out which levers to pull while he's getting guys back midstream. Other guys are getting injured again. Like, this is not an easy situation. And there's a reason that, when you're going through anything for the first time, it's difficult. He made mistakes, no doubt about it tonight.
Yeah.
And then he also had a lot of options on the table for the first time in a while. And if we as a podcast just spent our whole last 3 p.m. show talking about this being less about the results and more about the information gathering portion of this as you grow closer to health, it's about what we see the next time they get in one of these situations. Did you learn from this instance? Yes, Jordan Ott is not infallible in this moment, but I refuse to put the coach over players when the execution level clearly wasn't there, evident by the turnovers and the points that your opponents had off of that versus the points that you were able to get off of the turnovers that you forced.
Yeah,
that's part of it. And then the other part of it too is fourth quarter execution.
Yes.
What was the purpose? What was the purpose behind your offense? 17 points in the fourth quarter. 2 weeks ago, we just got done talking about it. If you're not scoring 24 to 26 points in the fourth quarter, you're probably not going to win that game. This time of season, a lot of games are going to be very close. You went into the fourth quarter literally tied. All you have to do was win the fourth quarter to win the game. And you only had 17 points to show in that. Now, you only gave up 21. But last time I checked, 21 is more than enough to trump 17. And to that point, the fourth quarter woes. Can't point at anyone in particular, but your purpose has to be a lot more intentful. Get into your actions significantly quicker, even if you are taking the ball out the basket. Have an identity to the things that you're approaching and get to those things. You can't be taking as long as you did tonight against Orlando and then getting stuck in the mud. I know everybody wants to point at the shot that Dillon took. Dillon didn't just come down court, dribble baseline, left hand, and then throw up a shot behind the backboard. Devin drove to the paint, didn't have an option, kicked it out. There's 11 seconds left when Dillon gets the ball. That's the best look they're getting if he gets trapped behind the basket. That's not his fault at the start point of it. So you got to make sure we're painting the full picture of this.
Well, Steven, and I agree with what you're saying, and I do agree that this is information gathering, and that's important, right? Do you learn from it? I think for me, it's like there should be information gathering, in my opinion, with Jalen Green, who did not play a great game tonight. But I look around at, okay, Dillon Brooks also didn't play a great game tonight. Really, on both sides of the ball, I want to say, just because of the fouls, I think he did have some really good individual defensive possessions there. I think Jalen did too. But like Grayson Allen was out there shooting 20% on 10 attempts from three, right? And again, when you get yourself in these situations where you're not scoring and you're gathering information and you're a rookie head coach, from my perspective, and it's a lot easier for me to sit here in this chair, and I'm not trying to hate on Jordan Knott. I'm just saying as a fan and as somebody who has watched every single game this season, and a lot of basketball outside of it, a lot of the times it's like, look, our star guy's not having a great night, right? Dillon Brooks wasn't having a great night. Guess what? They left Dillon Brooks out there to close the game. Grayson Allen is a great shooter. They left Grayson Allen out there to close the game. They were going 5 small guys on the court. I think Jalen Green, as one of the 3 best players on this team, especially when he's on in peak information gathering stage, when you know you're going to need him alongside everybody else, should have been out there. And if he makes mistakes, then he makes mistakes. Because guess what? Nobody else was doing what you needed them to do.
The two guys you mentioned, though, what did they not do last night?
They didn't play, but Jalen Green played under 30 minutes, and he's not injured.
I get it, but that's also in part, you know, that if you play Grayson 32, you're not putting additional strain on him.
Grayson's missed half of the games this calendar year with right knee and left knee injury.
And Dillon has not played, so he needs to shake off the rust. And again, like Steven said, if we were all pretty much in agreement that these 7 games are more about experimenting, trying to figure out what you're doing, well, you need Jalen to just get out there and freaking shake the rust off. And you hope that this was the rust game, that running, under the basket and throwing it up was rust, and you're playing it off there, right? Like, I think part of why those 2 guys played was because they did not play last night. And the part that Dillon's out there is because you need him to get as comfortable as possible. I agree that Jalen should have seen some additional minutes because he wasn't hurt, but I at least understand why Grayson played 32 when he didn't play at all last night.
My thing is, to Gil's point, if you're saying that someone should have played, then who is he playing in place of? Who are those guys playing in place
I
of?
would have played him over Grayson Allen at the end of this game. I think Grayson had 2 turnovers. I believe both of those turnovers came in the fourth quarter. Grayson Allen was not effectively shooting the ball, and yeah, he did have a really nice layup and had a couple of nice plays, but he shot less efficiently from the field than Jalen Green tonight. And again, 32 minutes for Grayson Allen is one thing, right? Grayson Allen has basically had to miss every other game for the entire month because of right knee and left knee injury management. To me, I would have gone down with the guy that has scored at an incredible rate the last 5 games and has been very good since Devin Booker came back 14 games ago. Like, he is somebody who has, I believe, earned a little bit more benefit of the doubt. I think Grayson has too, but if I had to choose, I would have rolled with Jalen tonight. That's my personal opinion. Neither of them, I think, had their best games ever, and it's certainly not Jalen tonight. So my argument is not Jalen Green goes in this game and they win. My argument is, Gil, I would have liked to at least see them try it out there and gather some information and maybe see if it worked.
And when you talk about the information gathering and thinking about who plays and who's playing in front of who, and a lot of speculation and educated guesses and inferences that we're making. And one that comes to my mind is maybe this is us realizing and learning that we talk so much about who's closing and said it should be these guys. And maybe the answer is, or maybe what we're seeing right now in front of us is, it's going to be Devin Booker and whoever else makes sense. Like, maybe it's never going to be a guarantee that we're going to see Jalen Green in these situations. Maybe that's what they're telling us. Maybe it's a part of the situation of, hey, this game requires more small ball. This game requires a bigger lineup. This game, we want to get Dillon Brooks reincorporated. This game, we want to get some of the other guys who are injured right now reincorporated back into the lineup. And maybe Devin Booker is the only guarantee. Maybe that's what tonight's lesson or takeaway should be because of that. Maybe it could be Jalen Green because, as Steven alluded to already, guarantee you, especially you look at who's on the schedule for the remainder of the season and what some of those teams are playing for, there's going to be situations similar to this one tonight that we're going to see the Suns find themselves in. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see something completely different than we saw tonight. And the one thing I think will be constant is Devin Booker. And maybe that's the only constant that we can count on. Maybe we need to start realizing that listen, the game script, the feel of the game, the flow of the game, that's going to be what it is. And Jordan Knott, that's part of his plan. And maybe I could just be talking, and maybe it's something completely different. But all I can say from the information that we could gather from tonight is that what we're learning, Devin Booker, 37 minutes tonight. Nobody else really had a game. Jordan Goodwin was being Jordan Goodwin in a lot of ways that he was, and then he gets hurt. And then that kind of messes up that plan as well. So, and the one thing about the small ball lineup as well, when they needed to go get a rebound, They went and got it.
Mhm.
They just didn't score offensively on the next play. So the one thing that you would worry about with that lineup, they were able to get done. So I found some, I guess, comfort in that. But I'm kind of looking forward and excited to see the next close game this team finds itself in, to see how they handle and what buttons they press.
I think the other thing with the small ball is that for everybody that keeps saying he's playing it too much, he barely just started playing it.
Yeah.
Literally
And
just started.
I think small ball was good tonight.
No, for sure.
That's definitely
For
not
sure.
my argument.
No. I'm
Yeah.
for other things I'm seeing. I'm like, they barely just started playing it, and if that's going to be something that decides a game or two in the play-in or the playoffs outright, you have to compile data. You have to get game film to assess lineups and what player pairings within lineups work together. Dylan Brooks' first game back in a month, you have to start seeing what those lineups look like, because when Haywood Highsmith comes back, I imagine he sees a vision where Haywood, Dylan, and potentially Rasheer are all on the floor at the same time. If you're not integrating those lineups into your rotation, how are you going to viably throw that out there come playoff time? But to the overarching point I'm getting at, the small ball lineup, look at the third quarter, all of the turnovers they forced in the fourth quarter where they were forcing turnovers as well. What lineup was on the floor more often than not with those in those moments?
Rasheer at the 5.
Was this Rasheer at the 5, Goody at the 4 in some capacity, and you fill in the rest with other guys. That's impactful. The other side, though, that I want to pay more attention to is on offense. If you're talking about everybody wants a floor spacing big, guess what? Their spacing is never going to be any better than when they have 5 guys on the floor and there's no traditional center. That's opening up driving lanes for Jalen and Devin and Grayson and Colin and even Dylan to attack. That's the point in them running those lineups. Heat up the ball on one end, up the turnovers, which they did. Keep the floor space, play to your paint touch, ball moving type of offense, and then get into things from there in terms of shot quality.
I think we're missing part of it too. Tonight was a rock fight.
Yes.
And he went with a rock fight lineup
Mhm.
at the end. It bit him in the ass, but he went with a rock fight lineup. In when you look at it, Goody is that guy.
Mhm.
Dylan is that guy. Like Grayson in a lot of ways is that guy. You've got Book, like you said. They went with a rock fight lineup.
Mhm.
It didn't work. They lost in the end. And I do wonder maybe if Goody wasn't hurt, that wouldn't have been the case.
Yeah, I certainly think that's a possibility. And it's a make or miss league. It's a win or loss league a lot of the times. Our tone would be completely different if the Suns scored 4 more points or they held the Magic to a couple less points tonight.
People still would have been saying
People
they
would
played
have
too
been mad,
much
but
small
when you
ball.
end it with a win, I think that does ease a lot of the pain. Let's keep on getting through that pain together on the other side of our second break. Let me tell you what's painful. These temperatures. Now, today, maybe not as bad, a little bit of rain, right? But you can see Gil shaking his head. Gil walks to work, and when it's 100-something degrees outside, when Gil gets home, he's turning that AC up, all the way up. But here's the thing with APS. They are here for you to help you save as much money as possible, because we know that energy bills can get very expensive. Look, the rate plan option allows you to compare what you would have spent over your last couple of months of energy usage, so that you can pick the right plan going forward and save the most money. Or there's a budget billing option, my personal favorite option, that averages out your payment throughout the year so that you pay around the same amount every month, making it easier to budget, easier to save, and work towards those financial goals, or really just get by as everything gets more expensive around you. It's nice to have a very consistent bill. That's budget billing with APS. So learn more about budget billing, rate plan options, and all the other options for managing your bill at aps.com/let's talk. That's aps.com/let's talk.
I had an old coworker comment on Southwest Bias today. He's like, Espo, I work for Branded Bills. Let me shoot you an email. So I was like, here's my email. He's like, how about you, I see you wearing our hats all the time. I'm new here. Have you ever thought of working with us? I said, oh, I got you covered. We already work with you.
Don't you worry about it.
We love Branded Bills. Like, we are in the Branded Bills family. Got the custom hats. I own like 60 of them myself. Like, it's ridiculous how many Branded Bills hats I have. And I spread the gospel of Branded Bills. They are breathable. They are fantastic, well made, and they have partnerships with the Suns, with ASU, with U of A, and even Wake Forest. They got like 40 colleges that they partner with, and you know what? They are locally owned and operated. So why would you not want to have a Branded Bills hat on your head? You can go to brandedbills.com and use that promo code BBPHNX. You can get 15% off your first order just because you know us.
All right. Well, thank you for being here and knowing us, being with us, hanging out with us, venting with us. I think what's been so great about today's show is that I don't know if any of us fully agree on anything, but obviously we all see the same problems, and I think that's a really fun thing that we could do here is work things out on a basketball perspective. So let's hear from you guys with your super chats here. Riddle with a $9.99 super chat. Thank you, Riddle. Says, this team seriously stresses me out. Like, how does their mindset even work? One game, they look like straight beasts with perfect chemistry, and the next they play like they're not all there.
That's the reality of a team that's a seventh place team that's trying to figure out what their long-term vision is. This is the year one of a reboot that this team's going through, and I think that that's going to happen, especially depending on the type of defense you're up against, the roster construction that you're up against. We all know that the flaw of this team is that you don't have big power forwards. You're forced in a lot of times to play small. So some teams will pose different problems than others, and I think that leads to what appears to be inconsistency, but really is the fact that sometimes there's some really bad matchups for you.
And factor in not being healthy this
Yes.
year either, right? So you think about there are other teams who have had pretty similar issues to the Suns health-wise this year, and what comes to mind is the Grizzlies last night, obviously a bottom dweller in the league, but two teams who are trying to play for the postseason are the Sixers and Nuggets. You probably could use the exact same description for those teams as well. One night they're this, one night they're that. The Nuggets lost to the Grizzlies like 2 weeks ago, and I think that's a big part of what happens with trying to continue to reincorporate players to a lineup in your rotation. You have a different identity all the time, and it does kind of sound like an excuse, but honestly it's just the reason. And you think that these different teams have different talent levels, so their ceilings are different as well. The Suns team has a lot of talent when they're healthy, but they have not had it all together. So this is maybe the closest we've seen to them, and we're still not seeing them with their starting center, who's a big piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of one of those things where you're going to get mixed bags, and also at this point in the season, you're playing a lot of different teams who have very different things at stake.
And I don't know if it's necessarily like a lack of chemistry. I think this team's chemistry is great. I think it is just kind of like a lack. Maybe it's on-court chemistry. I think the
On-court chemistry,
off-court
yeah.
chemistry
on-court
is really
chemistry.
good. Don Davius with a $1.99 super chat. Thank you so much, Don Davius. Says, easily Ott's worst game of the season. I'm not going to be so quick to throw that out there. I will say I think this is probably the most that we've talked about rotations in a post-game show, and I think that is pretty telling about where the feelings are about this game, but of course your opinion is very appreciated, Don Davius.
It's certainly the most confusing.
I think there were a lot of confusing decisions. Riddle with a $1.99 super chat adds on, you guys need to help the coach with some advice.
Nobody wants that. Maybe Steven, but nobody wants me helping any coach.
And then Riddle with a $4.99 super chat again says, can the husband-wife law team help the Phoenix Suns?
I think they need to help us. We're the ones that have been seriously injured.
Seriously, well, I think the Suns have also been seriously injured. Any other rotation questions before we get into the positive stuff from tonight's game?
I would. Oh, go ahead, Espo.
I was just gonna say, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One that stood out to me. Only played 3 minutes.
He
had
played
2
3 minutes,
blocks,
2
no
blocks.
rebounds or anything else. But
Impactful shift he had.
yeah,
I was pretty vocal about the come on stuff on our watch along, and I don't want this to be confused for an anti-small ball take, because I do think that small ball actually was really great tonight. Just because they lost doesn't mean that the lineup they employed in some successful minutes wasn't good. I would have liked to see come on out there with Rasheer, maybe when Sheer was getting a little bit on the latter half of his minutes at the 5. Just because I think he played really solid, Gil. I mean, 2 blocks, but it wasn't just like he walked into 2 blocks. I think there were 2 very impressive ones. The first one, Goga Bitadze, was going down low in the post, and Kaman didn't jump, didn't bite on anything, didn't foul him, eventually blocked him. And the other one on a fast break, Kaman came flying out of nowhere and annihilated a ball. I'm not saying he should have played 25 minutes tonight. I do think he should have at least gotten another stint.
Yeah, him not getting another shift is the one thing I would maybe raise an eyebrow at. I'm thinking back to the minutes that he had on the court. There was the block, and then he had a really good rim run, wasn't rewarded for it. But, and again, it was so short, I can almost kind of visualize everything that was going on out there. And there was one play where I think he got mixed up defensively, and he was, if I remember correctly, guarding Javon Carter. And if anything, that might be maybe some of the reason, some of the rationale behind him not getting out there anymore, that he was just kind of getting mixed up a little bit with the Magic's personnel. Obviously, the Magic played a big man in Wendell Carter on the court, but that is maybe not necessarily a big enough reason to not put him back in the game. But that's the one thing I kind of think of. And nothing happened. The Suns didn't get hurt on that possession. but it just kind of looked like one of those possessions where he was about a half a step or 3/4 of a step behind. And if that was something that had gone on for maybe longer than 3 minutes, maybe it would have hurt that team, the team, and we didn't notice it because of that. But otherwise, I was very pleased from what I saw from him in that very short period of time. And, I'm sure maybe we'll hear more about why he did not get more time than that.
Stephen, 42 points in the paint to Orlando to Phoenix's 32. It did feel like a lot of the times when Orlando was striking back and taking momentum, it started with some drives and some paint touches. I personally feel like Kaman could have helped with that. Did you see anything in those 3 minutes that maybe warranted shifting away from him for the rest of the game?
No, he didn't do. I don't think it was anything that he maybe did wrong. I think maybe it was Jordan thinking about how can they kind of loosen up the defense so that they can go and get to the paint more. And I think naturally 1 + 1 is 2. Your big's on the floor. Your spacing is not the best that you might be maybe looking for against this very stingy, very staunch Orlando defense. Take your big off the floor. Hopefully that opens up more space for you. Small ball did provide some of that, so I imagine because they doubled down and honestly tripled down on those lineups being on the floor, that naturally just ate away at his minutes.
Would you have played Kaman a little bit more, Espo?
I would have probably found a couple more minutes for him because of the blocks, but the reality is they got back in this game because they went small. They took the lead because they went small and they played gritty. Maybe Rashir's the guy I would have given a handful more minutes to. Played 16, had 11 points, grabbed 4 rebounds. Like he had.
Just those 16, I think a vast majority. And I agree with you. I think you should have played him more minutes. I think specifically in the first half, it was a while. I think a couple of minutes into the second quarter when we saw Rashir, when he's been getting a lot of first quarter burn. And we talk about that first quarter being where Orlando really kind of like found their footing and gained momentum, which they needed to coming off of their last loss. Maybe some earlier minutes, but I think a lot of those 16, I'd be interested to see how many minutes came in the second half because he played a really long stretch where it was like, okay, he's probably exhausted, right? But if you brought him in a little bit early and got him close to the 20 to 25 minutes that I feel like he has been playing, maybe that first half is different. If the first half is different, we could be talking about a completely different basketball game.
Yeah, he played 10 minutes in the second half.
So 10 of his 16. Yeah. And I think the 6 and all 6 that he had came in that second quarter. So literally none of that came in the first.
My thing is, and I feel as if I always look through the lens of a starting lineup as a unit that sets the tone. So most people look at 5 starters on the court are the team's 5 best players. It's not how I personally look at it. I could be wrong. I could be wrong all these years. I just feel like that unit is supposed to be who's setting a tone for your team. And I just feel like against certain teams, it's hard for the Suns to set the tone that they want to if they have 3.5 guards in the starting lineup, which leads me to the point that I've been just kind of mentioning. Now, naturally, some of this is you got guys that are hurt that might be able to help pitch in at that some, but I just don't know if the 3-guard front with Gillespie, Booker, and Green is the one that's going to get the tone set to games that you're in desire of. I could be wrong again, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this plays out through the rest of the season, then play in and potentially playoffs. But I still feel like the Suns could benefit from, in addition to Dillon Brooks, having one of their wiry, blue-collar wing-size guys out there with Devin and Booker. Now, yes, that shifts your offense a little bit, but I think that creates more balance than it is if we can't get into our offense officially, or if we continue to play off of stops because we can't get defensive rebounds. I think it helps you just get a little bit more balance, and I think that's something that to start games in particular. If this game was 24-28, we're looking at the Suns potentially winning this game in the first quarter.
2 things that stand out to me. First, we were talking about the topic of Rashir. I give him a lot of credit, especially as a rookie and a young player, that even though the rotation for him wasn't until when it was, he came in ready to play and was impactful from basically the first second he stepped on the floor. To the starting lineup and what you were saying, Stephen, I'm very curious now because I think one of the things we talked about and I used to justify pregame was saying, okay, maybe there's been something working for Jalen and they want to stick with that and it feels like some continuity for him. But I think now seeing him not have his best game tonight with this iteration of the starting lineup, he has to be in the starting lineup. Your best players need to be out there. And not saying that Collins not one of the best players on the team, but you got to press the right buttons to get out to the best starts for this team. And I think that logically the next button to press is, okay, let's see what it looks like if you shift it down, Colin off the bench, get Royce back in there, maybe do some different things when this team gets closer to full strength, because it's so important. I think we see tonight, right? If Jalen does not get out to the type of starts that he's been getting out to, then that kind of sets the tone for his entire game. And what buttons can you press to make things work for him?
Yeah, and it's tough for him to get out to that start when Dylan is the guy that came out
Yeah.
and took those initial shots, because that's where Jalen was getting going, was being one of those guys taking those initial shots, and that's part of the problem.
And I will say it was pretty immediate that Orlando started targeting Colin on defense. I think Colin's a good defender, but when you go up against tall, big
Just
teams,
smaller.
they're gonna pick a guy to go at, and you're gonna go at Colin Gillespie. So
I mean, to that point, very first possession,
Yeah.
inverted pick and roll for Paolo.
right at him.
Jalen Suggs gets the catch and shoot three off of the coverage that they're in on Paolo in that pick and roll. So that's just one example of it. But I think the overarching point for me is just like Colin, and this is not a knock on Colin in any capacity, but I feel like Colin would greatly benefit from being back in that super sixth or super seventh man role. And the Suns starting unit would benefit from having one of these bigger guys to go and pick up the ball full court and then crash the glass and do all of those kind of blue collar marginal things in tandem with Dylan Brooks. So that it's not just solely on him to set that particular tone in terms of at the points of attack.
Well, there were some good things that happened in tonight's game, and we're going to talk about them on the other side of our final break. One of the good things that always happens is Mountain America Credit Union, because they have a checking account that works for you, and also for Oso Ighodaro, because they're the official credit union of the Phoenix Suns and the Phoenix Mercury, and their MyStyle checking account gives you restaurant deals, mobile phone protection, telehealth access, identity protection, loan rate discounts, offers on travel and events, and more, all just for having a checking account. So go ahead and get that Phoenix Suns card as the MyStyle checking account debit card, but then why not go get a credit card as well? Make sure that one is the Phoenix Mercury card, and you can get your credit card as a no annual fee card with low rate, cashback, and rewards cards options. At the end of the day, Mountain America Credit Union is here to guide you forward on your financial journey. Get your Mercury and Suns card today. Apply at any Arizona branch. Visit macu.com/suns to learn more. Insured by NCUA. Terms, conditions, and exclusions apply. Loans on approved credit. Make MyStyle your lifestyle with Mountain America Credit Union.
Hey, we made it to the best part of the sports here. We got NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, the tournaments going on.
Duke lost.
Baseball.
Just Duke lost.
Duke.
That's all.
Baseball is back. Well, I mean, for the most part. And Bet365 is here for you as well. And if you're not quite convinced yet, consider this. Just in time for the big game, they're offering you their biggest promotion ever. Bet 10, get 365. Yeah,
that's gotta be fake.
365. No fake news here. When any new Bet 365 user signs up and makes a $10 bet, they're getting $365, win or lose in bonus bets. It's perfect party favor if you're throwing some kind of party. Bet 365, where winning is everything. Download the app today and use the promo code PHNX365 at sign up today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in AZ. Please gamble responsibly. Must be present in AZ. $10 minimum deposit required. Bonus bets wager excluded from returns. New customer only. 20 only. Time limits, minimum odds, and terms and conditions apply. In-app only. Void where prohibited.
Let's get a little positivity in here before we probably end with a lot more negative here. But let's go ahead and name our dude of the night, presented by our friends over at Gila River Resorts Casinos. You do you at Gila River Resorts Casinos. Visit playatgila.com for more details. It's got to be Armani mode. The night after he became the player in NBA history to score the most points with no free throws attempted, Devin Booker tied a free throw attempted high since 2019 in the 70-point game, attempting 19 free throws tonight, shooting 16 of 19 from the line for 34 points, 8 of 16 from the field, 7 assists, 3 rebounds in 36 minutes. I think Book had a fine game tonight, yet another game where the defense was being very physical with him, but at least tonight he did get some of the calls if we want to have a little bit of a silver lining.
Defense was being very physical with them. Desmond Bane was being very physical in him. He was being very physical with Desmond Bane. But, you talk about the characteristics of good scorers, great scorers, elite scorers in the NBA. And on a night where Devin Booker reached 18,000 career points, we were again reminded of why he's in that great to elite range of scoring in this league. 16 shot attempts. We're getting to the line 19 times, and we were looking at this is the most free throws he attempted since the 70-point game, and that was a while back when he scored 70 points in the game. So the fact that he had the initiative and what he was doing, understanding the way that they were calling the game, there are a lot of drives that he had and a lot of times where he forced the issue and forced them to call the foul, and that isn't necessarily a luxury that he gets on a night-to-night basis, but he recognized that he was getting that tonight. And that kind of goes into, I hate to turn the positive negative, but something I would have liked to see more in that fourth quarter, see him try to force the issue a little bit more and see if they're going to call a couple more fouls, because there are a couple drives where he made the decision to get rid of it or pass it or whatever, but still, we're here nitpicking a 34-point night where he scored a game high, and this team would not have had a chance to be where they were if it were not for his contributions tonight.
Yeah, Devin tonight performed well. It came down to the guys around him not meeting the level that he played at. There's always things down the stretch. Yeah, could he have made a few more bucks? Yeah, that would have been real nice. But I think that he put in a pretty good effort, hit that three at the end to try to give them a chance. So, and he's been getting to the free throw line a lot this month. It was one of the knocks that we had on this team in general. And yeah, I know he didn't get there last game, not for lack of trying, but
Last two games.
yeah, the last two games, not for lack of trying.
The last two games he's at 30+ points each game, so it's
Mm-hmm.
definitely not for lack of trying.
But he's, I think he made like the 5th most free throws in the month of March, and that was in the first half of the game. He may be in like 3rd after making 16 of them tonight, but that to me, that's progress too. We're seeing him get to the line more than he ever has before in his career, and that's another thing he's adding to the bag tonight. Was another example of it.
Very important for him on a postseason stage, whether it be play-in or playoffs. Other guys are getting to the free throw line by means of their own. If he's receiving the calls that he should be getting, that matters a lot. I think there are times where he's learning that he can kind of force the issue a little bit more too. Initiate maybe a little bit more contact at times. Making things a little more dramatic at times. Again, not acting, but again, if the other guys are getting the whistle doing X, Y, Z, and ABC, you got to start to evolve a little bit. And we've seen Devin evolve to the tune of, to your point, Espo. This entire season, he's been shooting a career high in free throw attempts a game at 7.5 or a little bit more than that. It's a solid spot. He's been about top 15 all season long as well with that. That's something that's going to help him score even more easily and have even more impact over the control of a game. Other thing I wanted to bring up with Devin, though, is with teams continuing to pressure him as often as they are, the Suns are setting some screens a little higher up the floor for him. If you want to pressure and we're setting screens higher up the floor, what does that do to your defense on the back end? And to that point, now he's driving a big or he's driving against a switch with already having a head of steam going downhill. That puts the Suns right where they want to be in terms of getting early offense paint touches for their best player and figuring it out after that.
Well, plus they have 3 guys in the top 10 of the most wide open threes this year. You know why? Because Devin Booker. So that's
Gravity.
Yes, it's that simple.
Let's get into our Love to Play presented by our friends over at the Arizona Lottery. Play and gift today if you're over the age of 21. It's a simple question I'm going to ask you guys. Which of the 16 made free throws from Devin Booker is your Love to Play? I'm fond of number 8. That one was really great.
9 was mine.
Okay. Yeah. Steven, which one of the 16?
It has nothing to do with Devin Booker. Sorry. Colin Gillespie gets my play of the game tonight because second quarter in small ball, they miss a shot, and instead of everybody getting back, he decides to put pressure like 93 feet away from the basket on Jalen Suggs. Almost forces him to turn it over. He picks up his dribble, kicks it ahead to, I forgot who it was. It might have been Desmond Bane, who is immediately met right at the half-court line by Dylan Brooks. Gillespie sprints in from behind to put a double team on him. He dribbles off his leg. Colin Gillespie deflects it. Jordan Goodwin is able to get the ball, and then he ends up hitting a 3 for the 4-point play. But that third effort, so the first effort from Gillespie, point of attack defense, second effort on a double and deflection, and then the third one dives in like LeBron 2 weeks ago against the Rockets and is able to kind of pluck it away just enough for Jordan Goodwin to come away with the loose ball. And then Goody does what he does at a crucial moment in the game. Very blue collar of Colin Gillespie.
Colin Gillespie is LeBron.
That's exactly what
that's what
that was the
Exactly.
old, you're like, wah, 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 and then you're
He's got one more. He's got one more national
20,
championship.
that's Colin Gillespie turning a 2014 LeBron for one possession.
He's got one more college
wonder
national
he's learned
championship than
nothing
LeBron
from
does.
you.
People are saying.
Hey, Speak your truth, Gil.
That's all I'm just saying.
Speak your
He's
truth.
got 1 national championship in college. LeBron has 0. That's all I'm
His
saying.
kid might get one this year, but
Might.
hashtag the legacy.
I think Buddha's right though. I think it was that chase down block for Man.
Yeah.
That was a hell
I mean,
of a
how
play.
about Dylan Brooks turnaround fadeaway to start the game, which
Yeah.
everybody could have predicted would have been.
I mean,
Some
it's
of
well
us-
tried
some
to
of us
predict that
did
first
predict
one.
that
tried
would be
to
the
predict
Suns.
that, but-
Speaking of, real quick, we got to get to our pregame picks tracker presented
We
by
have
our
to.
friends
Ugh.
over at Bet365, where winning is everything with our friends over at Bet365. Download the app, use code PHNX365, and sign up today. I believe nobody hit their bets tonight, unfortunately.
sir,
let's
not
just,
me.
we can take that
But
one down.
I'm not here Thursday, which means I'll hit my bet because I won't be able to celebrate it.
It is
That's
pretty
what's gonna
funny how
happen.
often
Yes.
we all here hit our bets when we're not here. Gil hit one of his most recent bets when he
It's
wasn't
happening.
here. I hit one of my most recent bets when I wasn't here. Espo, you've hit a bet when you weren't here.
We tried to screw him though on that. and
We
say he
did,
didn't
well,
hit it.
yeah. But
Always check,
But
people.
he-
Keep
he
your receipts,
double
all of that. It's a reminder.
okay, so let's get to a couple of more things here. Another members chat coming down in our super chats. This one from Just a Little Wildflower. Hello, Just a Little Wildflower. Celebrates 5 months of membership. Awesome. Says, why does no one like small ball? Also, why are we constantly playing small? Or are we?
Exactly. Thank you for the or are we, because look at the roster, identify what the flaw was that everybody decided to point attention to in the preseason, which then led to people assuming that double big was going to be part of it, which I said, not so quick. How are they going to get to those lineups? Is it going to make sense? Are guys going to be ready to play those type of minutes? Here we are in game what? What game is this? 72, 73, 74?
74.
74? So we're at
Oh,
game
yeah.
74.
Yeah, it's only 7.
We've seen next to no double big lineups for obvious reasons. It's not that they're playing small, it's just that they are small. Now, they do have small ball lineups where they take a big off the floor, but inherently, this team's arguably their loudest flaw is that they just don't have size. That's typically one of the things you have to succumb to after you make such a big trade with someone like Kevin Durant involved. You don't have as much navigation of the roster in tandem with Bradley Beal's contract still being on the books to address things in a way that you might want to. You have to live with some of these for the short term and hope that in the long term you can kind of address them accordingly.
Well, and guess what? If you played a double big lineup, you'd have to play a small lineup after that because you'd have no back big.
I mean, no, you only played, come on, 3 minutes anyway.
Well, I mean, in general, if you had played a double big lineup like you were saying people wanted, you only have 2 bigs on this roster.
Yeah.
So tonight was the unique situation where they truly did play small ball and they played Rasheer at the 5 from time to time. But that's not traditionally what they've done. They just don't have a lot of big guys on this roster. So it's tough not to feel like you're playing small.
First, I misspoke. It was game 76. So,
Oh my God.
I was trying to do that
Yeah,
math.
so
I'm like,
game 76. There are 6 games left in this season. But the thing that I was going to say about that, and we said it during the game, and we've said it throughout really the course of this post All-Star break stretch, in tandem with styles making fights, who dictates the terms of the game? So are you playing bigger to match up with a bigger team and play their way? Or in turn, are you going to play smaller to make them uncomfortable, to try to play those bigs off the court? Or if they want to be stubborn, I'm going to ring off a run. I'm going to ring off an 8-0 run to tie the game going into the third quarter by playing small when you don't have the facilities to keep up with that. So I think that's something to keep an eye on and be mindful of, especially down the stretch of the season as we talk about trying to find answers and things like that. As you look at potential matchups in the postseason with teams who have big lineups, are you going to try to make that lineup uncomfortable? How often do you hear it in the playoffs? Oh, X big man got played off the court because he doesn't have an answer for what this small lineup is, especially in those type of circumstances and situations. And quite frankly, that could be this team's best chance at making noise in the postseason. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see it more and more just because of the advantages, of the unique advantages it gives you.
Steven, are you ready to talk about our blue collar boy of the night?
Who might that be?
Oh, you know who it is. Kobe Bryant. No, of course. It's Jordan Goodwin.
all I heard was wah, 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 wah.
It's fair
Jordan
enough,
Goodwin.
honestly. Jordan Goodwin tonight, 9 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 steals. 3 of those rebounds offensive in 29 minutes. Obviously, we are waiting to hear a little bit more on his injury, but I think it's very blue collar of him that he even tried to stay in and then checked back into the game at the very end for a possession. So a very blue collar performance from Jordan Goodwin, if I do say so myself.
You know, I think tonight was probably more so Colin Gillespie.
I agree, Steven.
You're an idiot.
I'm with you.
That's right, Gil. Come on.
At least we're consistent, right?
The alliance, okay?
That'd be a funny bet. I do think Colin had a pretty.
No, Colin had a good game for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jordan and what he does, especially imagining that he's in these small ball lineups with not just one of Rasheer Fleming or Haywood Highsmith, but also Dylan Brooks. That had really caught my attention in the second quarter when they started off with an iteration that did not have Dylan Brooks on the court. Checked in maybe 2 or 3 minutes after they kind of made a little bit of a run. And then he comes in for, I think, Royce O'Neal. And that run just extends into a little bit deeper into the second quarter. And they almost draw to even before the last 5 minutes. That's the vision for it. That's something that I feel like the Suns will have an advantage for come play-in or playoffs. And now it comes down to, especially in those situations, can a team solve that? And can you solve something that they might throw at you? I think Jordan Goodwin is key to all of that because of, dude's 6'4", 6'3", but he plays like he's 6'8", 6'9". And his impact on the glass has that feel. His point of attack defense has that feel. And he's knocking down some timely threes on top of that. Look at the shot at the end of the third quarter off of Devin Booker that tied the game for the Suns going into the fourth quarter to give them a chance to win 12 minutes and win the game. That shot that I was talking about off of Gillespie's big play of the game for me it was capped off by Jordan Goodwin knocking down that 3+1. I think they may have tied or took the lead. That might have been their first
He also hit
game.
that buzzer beater.
At the end of the third quarter.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was womping it.
Yeah, see.
Yeah, but yeah, to that point though, that's just what he does. He makes timely plays for this team in ways that most other guys on the roster can't replicate outside of maybe Rasheer Fleming and Dylan Brooks at times.
And shout out Buddha. He said 1 smack in the face, 4 push to the floor. A couple plays that come to mind with Goody for me. There was one where he picked up, these sometimes say pick up 94 feet. He picked up like 95 feet because he was guarding Jalen Suggs like on the baseline and made it go off of Jalen Suggs. And he was more hype off of that than anything else he did in tonight's game. And the other one was after the injury, whatever it was, he's guarding Paolo Banchero in clutch time and forces a very crucial missed shot from Paolo Banchero, who, by the way, has probably got 7 inches and maybe 50, 60, 70 pounds on him. But Jordan Goodwin doesn't care about that. And I was kind of joking. I was saying, sometimes they have guys who are injured and they get the ball in their hands and they automatically feel better. He's the guy who, once he gets a one-on-one assignment defensively, he automatically just magically feels better when it's time to go on defense. And then as soon as they got to stop, he went back to laboring up the court.
Yeah, some guys itch to get up a shot, other guys itch to get in the stance, and he's very much the latter than the former.
Who would have guessed it would take a Jordan to get the closest to Barkley we've had on with that grittiness ever? By the way, I want to address Blake in the chat. Can I?
Blake is. Can
I address Blake in the chat? Devin can scratch his own nose, so he's better.
He also doesn't have Reuter age.
Yeah,
I will say I'm shocked. I'm shocked at the fact that the guy with the Desmond Bane headshot as his profile picture is arguing pro Desmond Bane propaganda. So
and
he says Bane is greater than anyone on the Suns roster, and Freckled Mamba says this guy never heard of us. So guitar.
See, we've got our own guy that stands for a particular player. Right?
And this Blake guy is the bane of our existence, isn't he?
Wow.
Wow, Gil.
Oh.
Any final thoughts?
Man.
Final thoughts on blue collar?
Ooh, tomato.
I'd say Blake's making quite a stretch, but we know that Desmond can't do that. So,
any final thoughts on blue collar?
Desmond ain't top shelf. He can't reach there. So,
I'll just I'll just go back to the road trip that the Suns ended a little over a week ago, where they go against Boston and then Toronto and then Minnesota. Those 3 teams have a specific type of roster build that's in common with this Orlando Magic roster. You can talk about all the flaws. You can talk about lineups. You can talk about turnovers. The one thing consistent with those 3 games from the end of that road trip and tonight, the opponent. Bunch of tall wings, physical guys that play a style of basketball like that's about 48 minutes. You got to find ways to navigate on your terms against those teams. And I'm saying that because it's not that they've never shown it. It's just that they haven't shown it recently. And recently is significantly closer to the finish line than the other moments I can recount to from back in January and December when they showed to be able to meet that with their own resistance and then dictate the terms to their opponents in that manner. So got to do a little soul searching, get back in that film room and tackle those things and process accordingly, and then go out and kind of drill those habits and discipline because opportunity is there. And I think that's the one thing you can ask for is opportunity. Now you just got to kick that door down and stop kind of poking and see if it's still open or not.
I won't act like he's the answer to all the problems, but the person who's not available that was available in that time, Mark Williams.
Yeah, facts.
And, in the margins here, there, like you recognize the absence. It's felt very, very much so. And hopefully he's ready to go at some point soon. And maybe we'll start seeing those differences in the margins that he was able to make during those stretches when this team was competing with some of those good elite teams that they were able to beat and the problems that they're having now that they didn't have when he was at least at the team's disposal.
I have one other candidate. It's actually a group of candidates for Blue Collar Boy. Can I give it out? It's our friends from the Know We Rup Raptors. Our friend Ashley from Down Under. He's the coach of these young men. They were in the championship game last night, and he said, "Hey, they lost in close fashion. Only lost by a few points, but it was a gritty blue collar performance. So gentlemen, congratulations on a hard fought season. You were also Blue Collar Boys of the night."
Congrats on making it to the championship, and thank you for paying homage to the Suns with a close loss.
They're going to win the next one, though. They're going to win the
They
next
are going to
championship.
get the next one. They are going to get the next championship. All right, well, that's going to do it here on PHNX Suns. Obviously, not the result that we would want. The Suns do have another game on Thursday. No live show for us tomorrow. However, for our audio-only listeners, we will be doing a little Amari Stoudemire retrospective as Stat has entered the Hall of Fame for the 2026 class. Much deserved. We're going to talk about all of our favorite moments and memories from him. Speaking of history, Devin Booker became the third youngest shooting guard to hit 18,000 points tonight, so congrats to him. And more history from tonight. 3 DBs got a tech on the same play. Dylan Brooks, who if he gets one more, he's suspended again. Devin Booker and Desmond Bane. So a historic game
But
here.
for full transparency, this resets into postseason for anybody that either forgot that or just did not know that.
Isn't it every 2?
It's
in
every
the
so
postseason,
Dylan-
though?
so
So
Dylan
he's
Bro-
basically on the postseason plan.
No,
right now.
it's you get the 7 in the postseason.
Oh, and then
you
it's
get
7.
7.
Okay,
You get 7.
okay.
But he is one away from another
From
tech.
another
So people are
sure.
asking if he's suspended, he can get one more tech.
Yeah.
But then he's suspended.
And this
so
one might get rescinded in classic Dylan Brooks fashion.
maybe. Oh, and one other piece.
Trend is a trend.
Royce O'Neal,
Royce O'Neal.
6 player in Suns history, 200 threes in the season. Shout out to Royce.
Big shout out to Royce. And
Hey,
Colin
shout out to No Impact making Royce O'Neal.
That's what somebody called him that. I don't
And
know.
Chuck
brings
Gillespie now
no
1-3
value.
away from tying the Phoenix Suns single season record for 3-pointers made. He should be breaking
pretty
that
good.
hopefully the next couple of games.
So he'll get there in our watch along on April 12th with the rate it's been going.
Yes, but hopefully he can break it next game. We'll let you know all the injury updates, all the updates with the Suns tomorrow. You can follow us at PHNX_Suns. That's on Twitter and on Instagram. You can follow the Freckled Mamba behind the Mac, making all of the magic happen.
Play and text are not unlimited.
At Freckled Mamba. You can follow Steven
Guy.
at StevenPG3. Steven with a PH because he balances us out. You can follow Espo at Espo. Catch him on Southwest Bias every single weekday morning at 11. You can follow Gil at GilMcGregor_. You can follow me at YRIKRUBY. And remember, if Desmond Bane ever became a cop, he would be called the short arm of the law. We'll see you guys on Thursday.
Ahoy, hoy, Blake.
We all silly like the mayor.